All right, so Tabernet Talks. Here we go. Into another episode. We're flying tonight. I'm feeling good tonight. I don't know why, because we got somebody on the front line back with us here. Like last week, I did a Q&A show, and it was just me, so it's kind of boring. But when we get the guests on, the guys that are doing it every day, I get excited. So I have Brian Capone here from KW Empower. Okay, so I've had a lot of KW guys on the show. A handful, I'll say. Some from the Roach team, some from KW Empower themselves, some from KW in Jersey. So we've been all over the place. But I've been seeing Brian's videos. They're very good. He's a social media guy. That's what prompted my interest in having him on the show. If you're a social media realtor out there and you want to come on the show, reach out. That's what we look for. And we look for guys that are experienced, been in the business, been on the front line, and knows what's going on in the Philly market. I think that's what everybody wants to hear. What, from his point of view, what's going on. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And just give a little background, I guess, when you got into business and the whole nine.
Okay.
Yeah.
First got licensed 0506 part-time. I was a corporate America guy.
Okay.
Part-time, got laid off in 08 with the
whole bomb.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was working for
I remember.
I was working with corporate Starbucks, actually. And I probably would still be, we were in their site selection division, and I probably would be in the commercial world had things not changed or whatever. So
sure.
And then made it through a few rounds of layoffs, got laid off, and had a couple deals pending part-time, said, let me jump into this full-time. And that was like May, June of 08.
Wow. The hardest time.
Yeah, totally oblivious to what was about to come.
Right. You didn't know because it didn't happen until the end of the year.
Yeah, it happened in October or whatever.
Right.
So
I remember.
I was with Summit Real Estate, which doesn't exist anymore. They're from Washington.
I remember. Contrapa. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Rotella, I think.
Like Rotella. Exactly.
Right.
So what happened? So I jumped to Fox and Roach at that point, full time. And that was 08.
Is that Center City or where were you?
Society Hill.
Oh, Society Hill. Okay.
Yeah.
Good office.
Yeah, great office. Actually, I ran into McCann on the street.
I'm sure.
And I was like, listen, I'm going to get laid off.
Right. I need help.
Yeah. I was like, I got to go to a different office, and nothing against Summit at the time, but it was just, I needed something different. So, went there and was there for 10 years, 2019.
Were you on McCann's team, or was it a separate situation where you just did on your own thing?
No, I remember.
I asked that. I'm sure.
No, I remember being very naive in two senses, right? Like I was naive and being like, Mike, can I be on your team? And he was like, no, you're not experienced enough. Which I think
I could see that.
But the times were different then.
Right.
He just wasn't.
Right, he wasn't growing like he was.
Yeah, like if you were on a team, like you had to have a little bit of a pedigree.
Right. The experience.
Yeah. And back to the 08 debacle, I was so clueless in terms of what was going on in the market that there was tax incentives. I was just hustling like my friends, my first time buyers, people taking advantage of all those tax programs that came out. Okay. So not that I wasn't affected, but I didn't have a family yet. Like I really wasn't. Like I didn't really grasp the gravity of the situation at the time.
Right.
So had a small team at Berkshire, kind of led to on my own. Well, Prudential, Berkshire, made the switch to KW. Really, just I got sick of circling around Fifth and Walnut.
Right.
I just
trying
to
find
scenery.
parking.
Yeah, I just need to change scenery.
That's a nightmare over there to park.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. So 2019 went to KW, and I'm still there. So I worked out of their satellite office 24/1 for a while. And now I'm at 728 South Broad. Solo agent. So I went to KW. I dropped the team thing. Some people.
So you're just on your own.
I'm just on my own.
Okay.
I'm a social media girl. I still call it the Capone for your home team.
Yeah. Right. Well, it still sounds good. Right.
Well, it's not just me. There's one other person.
Right. So it's a team.
It's a team.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't need to be 40 people deep. That's another headache. We don't need.
I've said this many times. I was spending, let's just say, $30,000 to make $40,000 on the team, and I was like, for the extra $10,000, I was like, this just isn't worth it. Like,
and there's a lot of headache.
It was the Saturday afternoon phone call or text at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
Everything's wrapping up. Someone's like, I gotta write an offer. Like, can you help me? And I'm like, oh, fucking do it.
Yeah. It's too much.
Yeah. Can I curse?
Of course.
Okay. All right.
You're allowed to.
All right.
It's a free world.
Sorry.
Right?
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
This jacket's
It's good.
coming off at some
I
point.
like
too.
it.
I'm
I
telling you
like
that.
it. I like it. I like it. All right, so let's get into the action here, right?
Okay.
Let's get into the reason why we brought this guy onto the show,
Okay.
right? Because he knows what's going on. So he's been through the bomb, and then he's been through some good markets, and then he's been through some bad markets. And I think right now, let's fast forward to 2024.
Okay.
We're heading into, we're in the third quarter here, right? What's going on in KW Philly? Like, what is the feeling on the street from your point of view on where we're going in the industry as we head into the fourth quarter and the election, and what's going on right now? Like, what's the overall feeling?
Well, one little nugget just to jump to that I think is important, because I don't know if this is my fourth or fifth presidential election fall, and I've been preaching this, but I remember the previous ones. That fall market is not great.
We know that,
Yeah,
right?
right,
When there's an election,
When there's an election,
Right.
so like that, like October will just be crickets
unless the rates go down.
unless rates go down. So that's
Right.
that's
what
the
we're
interesting.
hoping.
Like, how is that going to play with
That's what we're hoping.
people freaking out about the election? Right? I
Right.
don't. We're not trying to preach doom and
No,
gloom
we're
here.
not going to get into that.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to be
Right.
negative. I'm just trying to be.
Right.
I'm just trying to be real. Like,
Gloom and doom is what we want to hear, because
Well-
we don't want to hear that. We want to hear the truth.
right. Well, the
How about
truth is, I would imagine the
I don't want to hear that it's going to be rosy and everything is great. That's not true.
right. No, I think it's an interesting, and it was one of the things I thought about. It's an interesting paradox, I guess, to have what is typically a slow presidential fall and then the rates drop, and how do people respond to that?
Right.
And I don't know. I think you're still
I
going
mean,
to
do
have.
you think there's going to be a rate cut in September? I've been kind of preaching that, right? But then I don't want to, I'm going to get attacked with comments from people saying, "How dare you say the rates are going to go down in September? How would you know anything?" Right? Maybe you can't predict what's
Well,
going to happen. But I think we have a shot of possibly seeing their first cut in September, and then maybe one more by the end of the year.
That would be great. I want to flip it to you and say you'd probably know better than me, but I think a couple months ago, I think the answer would probably be no. And then
Correct.
I guess we got some better
We got
inflation
some
news
right. The inflation news has now driven us to think that yes,
that in September. But I honestly am not politically astute enough to tell you what they do, how the Fed responds.
Right.
I'd like to say they're separate entities.
Well, how about this? Or you talk to a lot of people, probably a lot, right? Because you're a realtor and your experience. I'm sure you have a book of business. You talk to people in the office, I'm sure too. Is everybody waiting on the fence for the rates to come down? Is that why we're not seeing a lot of buyers in the market right now? Or are they just waiting?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly a year ago. I mean, this has been going on for 2 years.
I
Right?
know,
Right?
I know.
So I think
Oh, yeah.
May would have been like 2 years or so. I think certainly in the beginning, yes. I like to tell people that for all those people, and this is that whole buildup of when the rates drop and everybody jumps in the market, which we don't have to get too much into that, but I think for all those people that waited, there's still the people behind them that are and call them first time buyers, whatever it is, that are coming into the market for the first time.
Yeah.
Who are still having kids, who are still getting married, who are still doing all those things. So there is that buildup of people who it's just this backlog, right? But bottleneck, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Like,
so
do you have a book of business that is just sitting and waiting, and you're saying, if the rates hit this boom, I know we're going to explode?
kind of, I guess. I mean,
Okay.
I'm 50-50,
Okay.
60-40 seller buyer, to be totally honest with you.
Okay, well, that's even better.
Right.
Right.
So sellers are obviously
Where the market's going.
yeah,
Yeah,
different.
you know.
But yeah, I mean, there's still people there's always going to, whenever you're talking about buyers
Yeah.
and buyer psychology,
Yeah.
there's always going to be people who are going to try to hold out to get the lowest rate, right?
Sure.
How do you know
We
the
know
bottom?
that. I deal with that all day.
How do you know the bottom, right? The
Yeah,
bottom is when it starts
yeah.
to go back up. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that there will be people in the fall who, regardless of where rates go, are going to want to get past the election.
Right. Everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen with the election, and then they're going to feel more comfortable in doing something maybe in the new year,
Right. But I think the smart people are going to take advantage of that fall.
which I think you could now.
Absolutely.
Like, you could get a deal right now,
You
right?
can. Absolutely. absolutely.
How good of a deal?
So it depends where, right?
Right.
Like most of my work is in the city, but I we're just talking. I live in the suburbs.
Yep.
You're not getting a deal in Valley Kenwood,
No,
right? Like
no
it's
deals
not.
in no deals in the main
There's
line.
no deals in the main line,
No, no,
right?
no. You're overpaying on the main line.
Right. So a
Right.
lot of, but in the city, yeah. I mean, if it's a average product with that's priced aggressively, it's been on the market. You know, they put it on in the
Yeah.
spring, it still hasn't sold. Now it's the summer. This is traditionally a good time to jump on something.
Yeah.
Then the fall comes along. You know, it's slow in October. Sellers are freaking out. You're gonna have even, you know, you're gonna have opportunity there as well. So it's neighborhood specific. It's property specific. It's price point specific. It's condition specific. It's, you know, there's I'm not gonna say there's a lot of nuances, but there's not a lot of rhyme or reason sometimes.
Is the crime still a major issue in your eyes for the reason why we aren't as busy as we should be? That's a good question I ask because
Thanks for,
I give-
thanks for filling in that dead air. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I had to say something, and I felt that was a good question that I asked, and I ask it a lot.
Right.
I don't ask it to every realtor because I got mainline realtors that come on and they don't know anything about the city, and that's fine. That their neighborhood is there, and New Jersey realtors aren't going to answer that. But a guy like you, I think, can answer that because you are in the city,
Right.
So, and you do business here. So you think that's a major factor as to why we're not where we should be.
Yeah. I don't, you know,
Okay. All right, that's the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I think for the younger folks, it's less important.
Okay.
They're a little bit more
Right. So more experienced people,
older,
move up buyers, older buyers.
older people. Absolutely. I'm certainly empty nesters. I don't deal with a lot of empty nesters coming in.
Okay.
But I would venture to say that, yeah, you hear that. You know.
And the first time buyers, though, whatever.
First time buyers are like, screw it.
Yeah, they're
We're
gonna do
we
it.
want to live in a city. We don't care. It's a city. You know, it's Philly. You know, which
Right.
kind of annoys the hell out of me. You know, it's like,
Oh,
you
it's
know,
Philly.
it's like, you know,
That's
Philly
great.
can have all of Philly's bumps and bruises can be rationalized by it's Philly. It's a Philly thing.
Right. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Thanks. Does that make me feel good? I don't know.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it, no.
No, definitely not.
All right. So some of the biggest changes that you have seen from when you first started in the market to now. I know there's changes. Like we see them in the mortgage industry constantly. I've been through a lot of markets like you. I started back in, forget about when I started, but it's been through some markets in 01 and 08 and 2012. I thought was a market where the rates had gone up, and then in the pandemic, of course, we saw craziness, things we never seen before. So have things changed? Yes, dramatically in the mortgage market. But as a realtor, is it just business as usual as it was when you first started, or do you see a dramatic change in the way things are?
I mean, everything has to be taken into the context of how your business grows, right? So what I thought was busy or you know, a lot of buyers or a lot of sellers, whatever it was, when I was younger, because I didn't know transactions in and out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not giving you a direct answer right now, but I'll try to.
It's fine.
You know, versus now, like, you know, my problems now aren't like, oh, did I handle that negotiation the right way, or did I get them the most?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
You
Little things
you
that
overlook that
bothers you in the past don't bother you as much now.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you know, I'm not asking my wife like, oh shit, this guy's doing this, and
Yeah,
you know, how
yeah.
should I handle that? It's just kind of like it more becomes, all right, do I have appropriate balance in my life?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
am I doing the things to grow? So I'm not directly answering. I know you want.
I feel you. I know. Listen, what you just said is how I feel.
Sure.
I don't care about. I do care. Don't get me wrong. I do care if there is an appraisal issue or if their guy might be short $500 to close now. But those things used to really, really ruin my day, right?
Sure.
And I would go home and be mentally ruined over one deal, over something that small, which was fixed the next day and was done.
Right.
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 Now I'm thinking about growth and bigger things,
Sure.
and I don't want to take everything as serious.
Right. Yeah.
I agree.
And
I think that's where you mature.
yeah, and that just comes with age and experience. But I don't. What's like a big difference now that is
Yeah.
from when I was. You
I mean,
obviously this.
What were your best years?
Mid-teens, I guess.
Okay.
We're good, and then it feels pandemics. Last few years have been good.
Yeah.
Just you just get to a point if you stay in contact with people.
Right.
where the database gets big enough that the phone rings. Not that you don't do anything. It's it's there, and yeah, you're always going to kind of worry about, all right, where's the next deal coming from? What are you doing? But you just relax a little bit. You know that
Because you know somebody's going to call you that you've closed in the past, maybe, or they're going to refer you one of their family members.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And even it's not even like like the guy I just told you about who bought the mixed use place. I thought he was totally content in his regular primary house. And we just settled on a place for his business not that long ago. And he's like, listen, and I shouldn't realize this. He had a baby. And I was like, oh, they're definitely going to be moving. And he
Right.
reached out like 3 months later. We're back
He's ready to go again.
looking again. Yeah. It's just
Right.
stuff like
So
that.
that's
Just
how it works
snowballs. Yeah.
as far as, right. I mean, I think the pandemic was a lay down for a lot of realtors, obviously, when the rates are 2 and 3%. And for
Sure.
mortgage guys, we love it.
Right.
I mean, you didn't have to sell much.
Right.
You would just,
Right.
yeah, they would call you and they're ready to go under contract, or refi, whatever they did.
Right.
So I think, listen, this market, and I tell every realtor this and every mortgage guy this every week, is not for the faint of heart. You really have to know your stuff now, and you got to be experienced. And if you're not experienced, you need to be under a mentor or someone who is experienced to help you go through the grind of this market, because you're not just going to pick it up on your own right now. There's a lot. It's a different world.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
can't just fall into it and say, let's close 20 deals. You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Which leads me to a question that I had written down, and and I'm going to start asking more realtors. I haven't asked enough. How many deals a year should a realtor be doing? How many deals a year? And I didn't even finish the question. You already knew where I was going. How many years? How many deals a year should a realtor be doing to be successful? What, in your eyes, does a realtor need to close in order to at least make a living? And I know there's a lot of realtors out there that want to hear the answer to this, because they all measure up to each other, just like loan officers, right? What's that guy doing? What's he closing? I think I should be closing that. Do you need to get wrapped up in that? Or what's your opinion?
the snarky answer is this before or after August 17th, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
no, but
we don't want to get into the NAR right now. Let's
I
leave
know.
the NAR settlement alone for now. Maybe we'll touch on that later. Right.
People live differently, and and I feel like I'm answering by not answering, but I remember somebody told me if you can close 2 deals a month, you can sell 24 properties a year, you're probably going to be in an okay place.
You're doing really good.
So that's
I wouldn't say
really good. I mean, listen, if they're $100,000 properties, then
you're not doing really good.
You're probably struggling a little bit, right?
All depends on the size of the deal.
It depends on the size of the deal.
Sure.
Exactly. So I mean, you can flip that to volume or whatever it is, but I don't know if I want to say it, but I wouldn't want to put up with all this bullshit for $50,000 a year.
Thank you. I mean, that's what we wanted to hear.
I
mean, that's
I
probably
work someplace that has benefits and 9 to 5, and I'm not tied to my phone and all that. So,
and I think there's a lot of realtors, and I'm not putting anybody down here, because $50,000 a year is nothing to sneeze at either. No. If you're making $50,000 a year and you're working 80 hours a week or 90 hours a week, and you're on call 24/7, 7 days a week, yeah, I don't know if it's worth it.
Sure.
I mean, maybe you should be working a job that you get some type of guaranteed income where you almost could make the same thing and not have to work 80 hours.
Someone's paying towards or contributing towards retirement. I don't know. I'm so disconnected by what I love talking to people in the corporate world and seeing what their packages are, because their compensation packages are. Because I'm so
I know,
that sounds great. That sounds awesome. But
I am disconnected too from any of that.
Yeah,
we're entrepreneurs, and we're 100% commission. We have no idea.
Yeah. But no, I would say, just to give that example, that doesn't seem like, I mean, if you're making 6 figures, if you're making $80,000-$90,000 a year, and your expenses are low, if you're doing that, but you're spending $1,000 on leads and whatever it is, you're doing parties, and it's, I don't get big in like KW speak, but they talk about that bottom line, right? That it's not your gross, it's your net, it's your net.
Right.
But there's true, right? Like if you're making X $150,000 a year, but your expenses are through the roof, then
you're not making any.
It's not that you're not doing it right. It's just
you're not getting ahead.
Yeah. So I try to keep it lean. That's why I like being a solo agent.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have purchased leads in the past. I try not to,
which is probably good.
Yeah,
Because I've been through a lot of leads.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, I mean,
I see people do it. I see them, they're incredibly successful and
sure, you got to work the leads.
yeah.
You have to have a team, I think, to work them. I mean,
Yeah, at this point, Zillow Flex and stuff like that.
Yeah, you got to have a team to work them. I don't think that, listen, we do some realtor.com co-marketing with other realtors. We it's a 50-50, of course. And I see not too much success.
Right.
It's more of a grind.
Yeah. I have Ojo or Movodo.
Okay.
Which are, pay at closing leads. And they're tough.
They're tough.
Yeah. It's like, I close one or two
Yeah.
and it's like, it's almost like found money. Not to sound like that, but it's not. There's nothing like, being referred to somebody, or I grinded out open houses early on.
Really?
Yeah, I did Mike's open houses.
That's great.
I did, and this was pre-Saturdays, so I did them on Sundays, 12 to 1, 1:30, 2:30
every week.
Every week. I missed the Snow Bowl, right? I remember the Miracle in the Meadowlands too, and the frat boys in the house next door yelling like crazy, and I'm like, oh my God, something's happening right now. That stands out, but
yeah. See, the working the Sunday afternoon during an Eagles game was always tough, but you got to do what you got to do.
So what has changed? DVR came around at some point.
Right.
Made things.
It's true. It helped.
I would be like this. I would drive home like this, and I didn't want to see anybody in a jersey walking out of an Eagles jersey walking out of a bar.
Right, because it would kill you.
I'd see what reaction, if they were happy or sad. It would mess everything
you knew
up
right away.
I'd be like, run right into the house. But
I mean, I've taken applications during the Eagles game. It's not fun. But you do what you got to do, because you got to do a pre-approval for the buyer who's at the open house, who wants to make an offer that afternoon, and the offer's due by 4:00, of course, and the game's on it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Right. There's no choice.
I was talking to another this was a while ago. I was talking to another realtor's husband, and he's not in the biz or whatever. I forget, we were talking about the schedule, working weekends and nights or whatever. But he had a different perspective. He was like, I forget the exact way he termed it, but he said, there's something nice about that atypical day off, right? Like that Wednesday afternoon off or whatever. You get to a point where that doesn't happen.
That does not happen.
It doesn't happen.
You think that you can say, oh, because I'm working Sunday, I'm going to take Wednesday.
I'm going to take a half day on Wednesday. It just doesn't.
You wake up Wednesday, the phone's blowing up. You got somebody wants to make an offer, somebody wants to meet. It's over.
Yeah.
Or you're looking for work.
Right. You have to be, or you're feeling, it still psychologically feels like it's Wednesday and you should be working.
That's what I mean. You're looking for work.
Right.
Because you're saying, why am I sitting around on a Wednesday?
Right.
Everybody else is working.
I don't know if that'll ever go away. You just get used to working on the weekend. And
you do the 7 days a week, and that's just what it is.
I'm at 6. I'm at 6 at this point. I try not to work,
Yeah, well, unless you get a phone call on this 7th day and say, listen, Brian, I want to make an offer on this $1 million property. I need you down here at 2:00 today. I'm only going with you, but I need you down here at 2.
Listen, I'll work from my phone or from my computer on that Saturday or Sunday, but it's going to be.
It's a little stretch. I hear you. All right, so longevity in this market, longevity is a tough thing to achieve. We go through a lot of mental things personally. You evolve, every year in this business. So give us some tips to a realtor who may be at year 3 or 4 right now and are thinking to themselves, this is getting really hard, a lot harder than I ever thought it would be. How am I going to sustain? What do I have to do in order to make it through? Or what are the tips for longevity?
Well, I think if you're at year 3 or 4 and you've made it that far,
then you're ready, successful, I guess.
I think so. Yeah. We were having this conversation at a meeting, because we were, everybody recruits right now, right? So teams, they're just recruit.
It's ridiculous. I know.
And I forget the context of the conversation, but I said, you can't tell at this point, like, who's going to make it work and who's not going to make it work. And the analogy I gave was back when I first started working at Fox and Roach, I sat on like that little newbie row.
Yeah.
And I was new, but so you'd have like the new licensed person, they come and they sit next to you or whatever.
Right.
And I could tell within 5 minutes whether or not they were going to make it in the
Right.
business. And I was,
because of their
I might have been 6
personality.
months in.
Personality.
Yeah, you
right?
could just tell what they were doing, how they were conducting. If they're just sitting there like, well, are you like picking up the phone? Are you doing things? Are you asking questions? Like, what are you
knew
doing?
right away. Right.
Yeah, you knew right away. So 3 or 4, you're good.
Should they go on a team? Maybe if they're starting to feel like I'm at year 3 or 4 and I am worried that I'm not going to make it through this thing.
Maybe if that's what they're looking to do. I kind of came from this world of, if I'm going to do this and work for myself, I don't want to go be on a team because I don't know if I feel like I'm totally working for myself. And not all teams are set up like that. And you can feel that way.
Right.
I'm not someone who needs like camaraderie. I don't need like rah rah rah. Like I go in, do my work, go
that's
home.
it. You're gone.
But that's part of my age, right? Like I'd rather spend time with my kids than go to happy hour with my team members. Then that's just kind of where just where I'm at right now.
Sure.
Longevity. I don't know. I mean, I think that for me, I always do what I say I'm going to do.
Okay.
And I always do it in the time period in which I'm going to do it. I always go above and beyond. So customer service is always there.
So reputation then gets built.
Yeah.
And that helps longevity too. If you have a good reputation.
I kick myself for telling people all the time, I'll get back to you today. And it'll be towards the end of today. I'll be like, shit, why don't I just tell them I'll get back to them ASAP or tomorrow or something?
Right.
And if it gets late, I will, and I can't get to them, I will send them a text. I say, hey, listen, I know I told you I'd get back to you.
Customer service.
Listen, got tied up with the kids, whatever.
Yeah, you don't just ghost them and just right.
Yeah,
you
people.
Get back to them.
I always do what I say. It sounds simple, and I'm assuming most people do that. But I think that's one thing it's cheesy, but it
works.
It's the truth. I mean,
people appreciate that.
Yeah,
they do.
And I'm straight up with people. Like I don't beat around the bush. I mean, you have to a little bit.
Sure. We're in sales.
Like, yeah, right. Like, if if they think the place is worth $10,000 more and they're not going to give you the listing, all right, I'll list it for $10,000 more. Right.
Yeah.
Like, we'll adjust if necessary. So there's a little bit of that, but, I think that's, I don't know, I could probably have more, but that's.
Well, how about this? How do you stay motivated?
How do I stay motivated?
What do? You get up in the morning, you get up early, you kick some ass in the gym, maybe do a little running, do a little bit of meditating, maybe some podcasts. What's the day in a life here? What are we doing?
Are we allowed to talk about edibles on this? Or
no? Yeah, that's fine. There's no.
That's just good.
There's no police watching this that I know of,
that'll be great. It was great for my reputation.
I don't know if you want that to get that out there.
Yeah,
but
no.
Listen, as I said, we're an open forum here. So you can say whatever you feel you want to say. I just don't blame me if your reputation is ruined after this show.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding around.
So go ahead. Sure.
No, I mean, what motivates me is not so much, listen, there's a whole lot I should be doing better in terms of exercise and consistency and all that stuff.
Sure.
I think just what motivates me is I've always had a plan. I've always had short, midterm, and long-term goals, and I'm a very, very patient person.
Okay.
Almost, I think, too patient.
That's a good thing.
I hit
in this business.
I hit 44, 45, quote unquote, middle age, and you start to say to yourself, "All right, are you hitting some of those
short
midterm and long-term goals?"
I feel you.
Just kind of incremental progress. Rome wasn't built in a day. And that motivates me to say, you've got
a little bit of eye of the tiger, maybe a little bit of I'm starting from zero today. Every day.
Yeah, I mean that's just
you got to have that.
It's just you. I think more so, and again, this comes with a little bit of time. Is you know how to resurrect business. So it's not about if I had more time, if I had more leverage, I could resurrect. But I know that if everything just stopped and I had nothing going on, I know what I most likely need to do and where I need to go to pick up
to get another deal.
And
right.
that
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because you have that book of business, or you know where to go if all else fails. I know if I go to this guy or this person,
right,
there's a deal.
Right. Yeah. So
a lot of people don't have that.
Right. Yeah. And then I know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's 18 different ways to do that.
Yeah.
And what
Most people don't even want to do one of them.
Well,
You know, I mean,
it's
so
what works best for you. You know, like what I don't door knock. You
yeah.
know, and but
I
if,
don't either. I mean, I never did, but loan officers, we don't. But for us, they want us to cold call,
right,
which was never into either. Like just
Right.
calling somebody and saying, "Hi, my name is Alex Tabernet. You want a mortgage?" You know, like
Sure.
that's not,
yeah,
the yellow pages.
right,
Yeah,
expires,
which is-
withdrawals, you know,
Yeah,
however you
right.
do it.
Same thing.
Yeah,
Right. Right. So, um, yeah, motivation is not easy in this business if you don't have a plan. You got to wake up in the morning and say, "This is what we got to do. Here's the numbers that I want to hit. Here's the people that I want to meet." Um, it's easy to go to the lunchtime and have a drink with your team, and then you lose the rest of the day. And in the early days of being a loan officer, I hate to say it. I mean, we used to go out to lunch, and that was it for the day.
right,
Right? Back in the
yeah,
08, 09, 10, it was just like, yeah, let's go out for a drink and at lunchtime. Boom. Next thing you know, it's 3, 4 o'clock. The day's over.
sure.
Right. And then you just move on to the next day. But that's when we were young.
Yeah.
Right. Then you're right. The 40s hit us and we were like, you build a career here,
Yeah.
So you gotta change things. Not that I'm knocking anybody who does that. If that's your line, if that's what you do, like I've seen some successful loan officers who hang at the bar
Oh yeah,
and get their business from the bar.
yeah. They get it. They just get it from.
I mean, that's what they do. Right.
I remember.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny you say that. I remember very early on. There was 2 agents in the office. They had just had a settlement. It was like mid-morning settlement. They got back and they were like, "Let's go to lunch."
Yeah, sure.
And I remember thinking like, I wouldn't go to lunch right now.
No.
I would go back to work.
Right.
You
Pump
know,
up and start trying to get
And
some
I
business.
wasn't like,
Yeah.
I wasn't.
I'm the same way.
I was oblivious, I guess. I was just like, why do you feel the need to celebrate that?
Yeah.
Like, that's just what you were supposed to do. You know,
Right.
like I didn't need to go to
Actually, they won't
brunch
work,
on Tuesday.
They won't work for a whole week.
Right.
And they disappear then.
Yeah.
Because
No,
you're
I mean,
spending that check.
the one's super
so-
successful still, but I just remember having the thought being like, what? I didn't put one and one together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I get it. Yeah, it was, you were happy that you had a settlement, but I didn't feel the need to go celebrate.
Get rocked for the next 3 days.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm not coming out to lunch. I'm going to go back to work. You know?
Then they have no money 2 weeks later. And they're like, oh man, it just sucks. This business sucks. I got no business. Meanwhile, they closed the deal 2 weeks ago. It was a $500,000 deal and they have a penny left,
Sure.
and they're starving. So, but you learn that, right? That comes from experience that you say to yourself, I can't be doing that. I got to just go right back to work like nothing ever happened.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's the key. I haven't, I have a quick tip for everybody out there. Me and a couple guys on my team have been running into some recent things with closings, with the numbers on closings, right? So, there's something that's called a closing disclosure that's sent out to every borrower 3 days before closing, and it tells you how much money you need for closing.
Right.
The biggest thing that I see and the biggest tip that I can give this week to any buyers in the market or realtors, or whoever it is when that closing disclosure goes out 3 days before closing, it's never really the final number. Right. It's just a preliminary number that goes out to you that says, this is what we think you're going to need for closing 3 days from now. That number is going to change, right? Because the title company is going to verify what they need to verify. You're going to verify, that I need to bring this certain amount. And the number may change all the way up until 24 hours before closing. Like we're still seeing numbers move, even though this TRID thing and the 3-day rule was put into effect to get rid of numbers changing 3 days before closing. We're still seeing numbers change 24 hours before closing.
Right.
And that's an unfortunate thing if you're a buyer in the market right now and you're looking for a final number of how much you need to close a week before. You're not going to get it.
Sure.
You're going to get a good estimate, but it's never going to be really the final number until we get a lot closer to closing. And I think there's a big, as people are tighter and tighter with money right now, a lot of people are making ends meet and they're buying homes with their last penny. We're seeing it, that any type of savings that they have left, they're buying their home with that. And they need to know to the exact penny, how much am I going to need for closing 2 weeks before closing? And
Yeah.
I'm sure you run into it.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to give that number.
I like doing the buyer. Sorry.
That's right.
I like doing the the buyer estimated closing costs. I usually tell people, I say I can probably get you within like a G of what, assuming that all these variables stay the same.
Right.
I can probably get you within $1,000. Like I don't know what your homeowner's quote's going to be.
Well, right.
And
Things could change there.
aggregate adjustments and stuff. That,
Right.
You know,
It's a title reimbursements and all that other stuff, which pop up sometimes the week of closing.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And could knock your numbers off.
Yeah. And not to mention the CD is just not really a user friendly document
at
to
all.
read at all.
At all.
So,
A big one that came up this week is these people bought a condo, and the condo association didn't give up what the fees were going to be that they were going to collect at closing. The capital contribution, the dues, upfront dues, right? So the week of closing, the condo company finally says, okay, this is what we're going to collect.
Right.
And we had no real, so it was like $2,000. And this doesn't go over well. And this is what I'm trying to tell anybody watching this show this week. If you're buying a condo, if you're buying something like that and things pop up the week of closing, don't trash the realtor, don't trash the loan officer. We're trying to get you the numbers. Okay. Our job is to try to get within a G, like Brian said, of closing so that you know what you're getting into. Okay. But then sometimes it's impossible. Things pop up that are unforeseen, and we're all trying to work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not an easy thing to make that phone call.
Read the 3407, right, or the resale cert, and hopefully that has it. But
you would think, but nowadays there's not much in those descriptions as there should be.
I know. I used to really thoroughly try to read the condo docs, but
forget it. Yeah, no. I mean, it's like reading a encyclopedia there with
before you go to bed.
All right, so let's go to predictions.
Okay.
What do you think 2025 is going to be?
What I think 2025 is going to be.
Is it going to be a rebound year for Brian Capone and the real estate industry? Is KW going to still be at the top, or what's going to happen in 2025?
Well, I definitely think KW and Power is going to be doing really well. I mean, the merger is
doing good.
Yeah. I'm thrilled with market share numbers.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, I'm not like a rah guy, but I'm thrilled by the market share, and I like I think leadership has their act together, and so I'm I think sky's the limit for KW and Power unless
awesome
unless somebody wants to buy them.
Right.
That's not my world.
Which you need a lot of money though.
Yeah. So for the biz, yeah, I think you'll see buyer increase in activity as rates come back down. And I don't think it takes much. Like I'd be perfectly happy with a rate in the 5s, right? 5.5, 5.25. Does not have to be 3.5, 3.75. Doesn't have to be 4.25. Let them hover around 5, and I think everybody can make that work.
Yeah.
So I still think you're gonna have some supply issues in the suburbs. Because a lot of those people, I see them around my neighborhood. You see the big design, build, construct sign. Like they really went all out in expanding their house, and those I don't think they're moving anytime soon.
Right, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and they'll get relocated and stuff like that. So
they got a rate of 3% too, so they're never really going to sell either.
Yeah,
right?
but if they have to go, they have to go.
Well, sure, relocation.
Right,
yeah, you got to go.
I think the city is going to be kind of more stop and go. I don't know a whole lot about, I kind of know what Terrell Parker's doing and following that. And I feel generally pretty good about that. I think Philly will, I'm not feeling bad. I'm not feeling, let me say that. I'm not
better.
I'm feeling better. I think it's just going to be like
gradual,
real estate, slow and
gradual.
Exactly.
I think listings increase.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. You'll definitely see. I mean, inventory's increasing. You'll see more of it. I don't see a falling off the cliff. I mean, I think people who were there's definitely going to be people who bought in the COVID era probably paid a little too much,
Yeah.
and are going to have to sell,
Right.
and they're not going to see their equity, and they're going to have to make some concessions to actually do it. But I think that exists in a lot of places. But
I think you're
there's
seeing delinquencies, they're saying, are rising,
rising. Yeah, I can see that.
because I think people overpaid in the pandemic, unfortunately. When you go 80,000 or $100,000 over on your mortgage and we approved you for the loan, that doesn't mean you really were in the best situation
Sure.
to go 80 or over or 100 over.
Yeah, just 'cause you
And
can afford
now, just because you can afford it, right, on paper.
it. Right.
But now I think you're running into situations where we're starting to see delinquencies tick up, unfortunately, and that'll make people sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And I still think, it's old school, but I believe meds and eds in Philadelphia. So my son's going to one of the camps at UPenn, these weekly things. We drive down 76, we get off at South Street, we make the right, and all you see is this all times of the day, going from grad hospitals, over to Penn and Chop and all that.
All over.
It's not just people in scrubs,
Yeah.
it's students,
Yeah.
it's people,
It's
people who
hustling
are
and bustling.
it's the people
Right.
who are in academia, people who are meds, and I think
That's great.
that's why Philly doesn't really see the meteoric rise, but we also don't see that huge drop off.
Right. Because
And
you have professionals like that.
Exactly. I mean, there's huge employers. There's tons of people, and it's funny. My son's 9 years old, and I'm trying to explain that concept.
Oh, forget that.
He's looking at me like, dude, what
He
are you
probably
talking
likes the color of the scrubs. That's a cool outfit.
He's
Dad.
like-
I mean, how come we're not wearing that?
He's like, "What's up? Let's play some Roblox.
Yeah, exactly.
What are we doing
Right,
here?"
He's in a different world. But
Yeah,
that's okay. I'd like to be in his world. It's probably a lot easier than.
Yeah, it's a whole lot easier. But but that concept, I think, is still carries true. I mean, listen, I
Right.
think if you bought like way far out, like if you paid a premium for a property in like way up in Brewery Town,
Yeah.
pushing like Strawberry Mansion, or if you're like deep in Point Breeze, it's gonna be a little harder to sell
Sure.
your house. Or
No doubt
whatever.
about
But
it.
you stay in the core. You did the right. You paid the right price. I think you're.
You'll be able to get out. Right. How about duplexes and triplexes? I'm getting killed. And listen up out there, duplexes and triplexes, we do finance, right? And quadruplex. You got to live in one of the units, right? In order to get the rental income from the other units, which I've been pitching every week. If you buy them conventionally, you can do that too. You might have to put a little bit more money down or buy them as an investment property if you're truly not going to live there. But I'm getting hit with duplexes. Everybody's onto this duplex, triplex, quadruplex kick, right? I'm sure you're seeing it.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of that out there though, or is the listings? What?
So it'll forever be there will forever be buyers who think that buying a duplex or buying a triplex, where they live in one, rent the others, makes sense.
Yeah.
and it does
Sure.
when it's done correctly.
Sure.
But the number one assumption with that is that you're prepared to be a landlord, regardless of whether you live there or not. You still have to be.
Sure. Because
So,
you got somebody else living there.
And some people just simply aren't prepared for that. I can't tell you how many people said, we sit down, we do a buyer orientation, and they start with, I want a duplex, I want a triplex, whatever it is, or we could go single family. And I don't kind of like, black out on the duplex, triplex, because I know they're ultimately going to buy a single family, but 9 times out of 10, they ultimately buy a single.
They buy a single family. Sure.
They buy a single family.
Right.
No, they're super popular. Here's
The
what's
numbers
hard.
have to make sense.
Right. Here's what's tough. For a couple things. In the city, you have some pitfalls that are hard, right? So you have some things that are set up as duplexes and triplexes and multifamily that aren't legal,
Right.
aren't zoned. So
There's a
that's
lot of
like
them, yeah.
if there's something that still probably keeps me up at night, is probably the buyer who bought something thinking they can do one thing with it, like use it as a legal
Yeah.
duplex, triplex, and then they go to get their rental licenses and they can't.
Right. Right.
You have things that had a variance, but it's no longer that use or whatever it is. So that makes things challenging. I think what I don't like in the city with these properties, often the new builds are different. They're nice. But the older ones, they become such a hodgepodge of, you go into the basement and there's pipes and wires
Yeah,
and things.
everything.
They're just a maintenance nightmare at times.
Yeah.
So that's why I also don't, as a landlord, want to deal with, and this is an unpopular opinion. So I'm just, this is, you
Oh,
can disagree.
I know it's unpopular because everybody thinks it's a grand thing to buy a duplex or a triplex because I'm going to get money to pay my mortgage. They don't
Right.
really know the ins and outs of what you're telling them right now, that you're actually going to be a landlord.
Right. You have,
Yeah.
2 or 3 refrigerators to maintain. You have oftentimes 2 or 3 HVAC systems.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
So from a maintenance perspective, it's tough. For
Yeah.
me, I personally just prefer, and I don't have I have a handful of places. Back to kind of goals and
Yeah.
feeling like I'm going a little slower than I'd
Right,
like
right,
to.
right.
But it's just straight single family. It's just so much easier.
It's better.
There's guys that have, good multifamily properties but like, you hear like I have one guy, he's buying, and then he's like, I want to buy a 10-plex or,
Yeah, I know.
and I'm like, I don't even know where you buy a
I don't know
10-plex
either.
in the city, right? You either have like a big new multifamily that's
I
got
know.
180 units in it, or you have like
They want to do a
triplex.
10-plex in an LLC name.
Well, yeah,
Right,
I just don't.
Right. I mean,
It's a lot of it's market specific. I'm sure there's other areas where you can do that, or you can go to the burbs and you can
Yeah.
buy like a little, 5, 6.
sure,
8,
it's a
10
different
units.
story.
Right.
In the city, a 10-plex or listen, a quadruplex is hard to find.
Sure.
You're not going to find an income-producing quadruplex
Yeah.
for $200,000.
Right.
This is what they're looking for.
Yeah,
That's
they're
unheard of.
expensive. Everybody wants a 10 cap, right?
Right.
They want to buy a duplex and they want to live for free, right? They want the upstairs rent to cover the entire mortgage.
Nah, it's not going to happen.
And then they want to buy it. They want to buy it FHA and virtually have no equity in it. And,
Right.
it's like,
right.
not gonna
No,
work.
no thanks.
Yeah.
FHA is seems like we're getting a lot more FHA offers accepted right now in the market. It's getting exciting there. Like, it's just not a conventional market anymore. We're seeing a lot of FHA get accepted, which is, I think, a good sign.
Sure.
It brings more buyers into the market.
Yeah.
It might not be a seller's dream that they accept an FHA loan over a conventional loan, but if it's the only offer that you got, you take it.
Yeah. You work through it. I mean, there's, I usually tell my sellers it's nominal. We'll figure it out.
That's what I mean.
If it's
You'll
peel
get
and
it
paint
through.
or, clear termite, we'll figure out how to do it.
So one of the final questions I have is, and I ask this of everybody, what are you doing right now to get an accepted offer? Like, the pains of people not getting accepted offers are still running deep with a lot of clients. They're running deep with a lot of realtors that I deal with. They're very frustrated. Even though if you think that the market is slow, it's truly not that slow, because the minute you put a bid in, you find out that 3 other people put a bid in.
Yeah.
There were no bids on the house, but the minute you put the bid in, then there's 3.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you get into the bidding more.
Yeah.
And then you wind up losing, right? When you thought you had it in the bag because there were no offers in there to begin with.
Right.
Right. And we're doing pre-approval letter after pre-approval letter on my side to try to get you in quick. And we're trying to call the listing agent. We're trying to do this and that and tell them how strong the buyer is. But what is really the true key to get an accepted offer, in your eyes?
It's good timing, because I had a phone call on the way down here, and we had the inspection today. So very similar situation. We were first ones in, knowing that there would probably be more offers.
Yep.
So from the jump, we were competitive. We had the luxury of having a nice down payment. A family member was gifting some money, so we knew that, number one, put us in a different position than someone who was 5 or 10% down. Obviously full cash.
Cash talks.
But
I don't like cash,
but it was
cash talks.
exactly. But it was significant enough where I said, you know what, we're going to at least give ourselves a position. They're not going to just take our offer. They're going to shop us for a little bit, right? So we knew. I said, we'll at least come in play, and we'll come back to us. Which they did. At that point, obviously you ask questions, right? Like, get as much information as you can about your competition.
Yeah.
Some agents are cool and tell you. Other agents won't tell you.
They won't tell you anything.
They won't tell you anything. And I get it. I get both sides of that. So we didn't do it escalation because they were like, this is as high as we're willing to go, and it's we're gonna have to go there anyway to get it. So we might as well not even do an escalation.
Yeah.
We did. We waived the appraisal shortfall.
Okay.
But when you're putting 50% down, I knew they
Doesn't
probably weren't even going to do an appraisal
doesn't
anyway.
matter.
So we had that luxury.
Right. That was nice.
And we did an accept or reject inspection. So first time buyer, very hard to get a first time buyer to waive an inspection, at least
Big time.
in my world. We did an accept or reject, which was today.
Yep.
And I only do stuff like that when I know the house is tight.
Right.
You know, like if the house is, not great, it's not wise
Yeah.
to do that. So
Yeah.
the phone call on the way down here was, hey Dan, 'cause I was there for 90% of the inspection. I had to cut out Dan. I know it went well, but here are your options. You still can accept this or reject this, or quite frankly, if it's not the best business practice, but you can still attempt to negotiate,
Sure.
even though you said to do that, whatever. And everything was fine. I said honestly, like the only reason you would reject in this scenario is because you got cold feet. It's not because it was a bad inspection.
Right.
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 It was
Right. Which is common. Too.
and I said, if you were in a position where a normal inspection, you'd get $1,000 right now or something.
Yeah.
Like the house was in that good of shape. So, does
That's
that answer
That
all
answers the question real quick. Does it, you being a listing agent on the side, does it help that a loan officer calls you and tells you how strong the deal is, or does it matter to you?
That's a great question.
I know. It is a great question because some realtors tell me, buzz off, Alex. Right.
Right.
I got 5 other guys. And some realtors are like, thanks for calling me, man.
Yeah.
That was great that you told me the buyer's approved and you verified them enough. Does it matter?
I would never be disrespectful if somebody called and did that, right? Yeah, I think it does matter. I think what matters actually even more is if I call them, that if they don't pick up right away, they get back to me somewhat quickly. So you don't necessarily have to be proactive on your end, but if I make that call, to me, that's an indication of how the entire process is going to go.
Right.
If I'm not. You're probably going to get back to me, but if it takes you 2 or 3 days to get back to me, like
what's
going to happen when the commitments
But
come
if I
in?
call you back within the hour,
If you call me back, boom, or hey, I'm in a meeting, I'll text you right back, and you know the deal. That goes a long way.
right, it helps.
That helps absolutely. Yeah,
That's good stuff because we get mixed bags on that, and
Right.
I preached you got to call the listing agent.
right,
You got to text them.
right.
Don't call them.
You know what it is.
Reach out to them.
You know what it is. The listing agent doesn't want to hear that. Listing agent doesn't want to hear that when they know the offer you're backing sucks and it's not going to be accepted.
Yeah.
Then they're like, I don't want to talk to you. But
terrible.
you can't control.
What are you
that,
going to say? How am I going to know?
Yeah,
right?
you don't know exactly.
Don't
That's usually when they're like, dude, don't
Yeah,
call me because
yeah.
you're not going to get.
No, you're right.
shot.
You're not going to get anywhere.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, listen, we're at the end here, man.
Is that it?
We could go all night, but that's it. We flew,
How long was that?
We threw through what? It's 7:30.
Is it 7:30?
Yeah,
Nice.
that's pretty good.
Okay.
It
good.
just was like easy.
I hope
Yeah,
so.
that's what it is every week here. It's easy if you do it every day.
Yeah.
Right? There's no script. We get up every morning, we go to work, we close deals, we help people.
Sure.
Right? And that's what it's about. I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
You
Yeah.
rocked.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good stuff.
It was fun.
I mean, you told it like it was. That's what we wanted.
You can edit a few of those things I said, please.
You cursed too. That's great.
The curse is okay. I don't care.
We're gonna put that in bold at the bottom with the words, just make sure that's. But you did great. I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
We'll revisit. Like I keep saying, everybody that had on, we'll revisit in 6 months
Oh, okay.
and see what happened.
Right. Is this? I know we got caught up with vacation. Is this a weekly thing, bi-weekly, or whatever?
Weekly, every
Weekly?
week, every Wednesday. I try to stick to it.
Gotcha.
So, I think we're on show 28 now.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that's pretty good.
And
We've had a lot of like KW guys. I've had Roach,
Right.
Roach on. I've had a lot of people from his team.
Right.
I've had Chris Summers on.
Okay.
A mix of guys from trying to think of who from your office that I've had from actual KW on Broad Street. I don't know. I got to think of that. It's been around, but everywhere but there. So you broke the mold there, maybe from there.
Cool.
That we had on. So it's good stuff.
I like it. So if it can help you, that's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, next week we're on for another one. I'll see you guys soon. Brian, thank you again.
Thank you.
And listen to the show. It's going to be on next Wednesday. It'll air on 9 a.m. I'll send you the info too so you have it. And we'll take it from there, guys. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.